I was just thinking, do I say welcome back? Welcome back, everyone. How do we usually start this? How do you usually start it? You just dive right into an intro?
I feel like Alessandra's been doing it. Does she just do the Q&As and I do the regulars usually?
Yeah, usually she does Q&A and you do regular, and I haven't really, well, I technically read one Q&A once. And I'm like, hello? Is this thing on?
This thing on, the spotlight's on
Uh,
your face.
Well, I guess, hey
Welcome
everyone,
back.
welcome back to the Fitness League. In this episode, we break down why the age old advice of eat less, move more is often overly simplistic and can potentially even be harmful. We're going to discuss the physiological, psychological, and social factors that complicate weight management and how we can potentially reframe this conversation to focus on sustainable, individualized approaches to health and wellness. Go figure. All
How we
right,
do? I think
here we
right up the
go.
top. I think right up the top. I just want to kind of start, and you tell me if you agree or disagree.
Okay.
Um, it is an absolute oversimplification, no doubt. Given the state of our country, given the state of just what has become the norm, I wouldn't say it's a terrible place to start for most people. Like when you have no idea what you're doing, you have, no concept of step one, step two, step three. It's like, where do I start? Okay, if you are significantly overweight and you're on the couch all the time, eating less and moving more is a great point to be aware of first, in my opinion. I think that's something that we can make, you say, explain this topic to me like I'm a 5 year old. I
Right.
think that's a great way to do it. Eat less, move more. It's very simple. It's obviously oversimplified, but that's where it kind of all starts. We need to lose weight, so we need to eat less, go into a caloric deficit, and helpful with that, not just as far as losing weight, but increasing energy levels, how we're feeling, just that immediate return. They're like, okay, positive things are happening. Moving more initiates that trigger.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I'm actually glad that you brought that up because like you said, for a lot of people, health and fitness has become so complicated that I feel like a lot of what you, me, and Alessandra do, or even our coaches do on Instagram, for instance, is we try to break down some of those complexities within health and fitness into more bite-sized pieces because the more complicated things are, the more the barrier to entry gets raised, the more the bar gets set higher. And the higher the bar, the more we deter people. And so to that point, I think in one sense, eat less, move more is this good way to boil down what we're actually talking about. When we say eat less, move more, we need people to be less sedentary and not over consuming calories, right? That's what that means. It's essentially a reflection of calories in, calories out, and energy balance. It is true that it can be a great simplification, but if it's an oversimplification to the point that people actually don't know what to do with that statement, then it becomes not helpful anymore. And then at that point, it's obsolete. So I think it's a great way to simplify, but if people don't know what to do with that simplification because it's oversimplified, then that also defeats the purpose.
Exactly. I think that's why once you get going and someone's like, well, I'm not seeing progress. So according to this, eat less, move more. I need to eat even less, whatever it is. And I need to
Right.
move even more when you could already be eating pretty low and moving a decent amount and just like, okay, well, what are the variables within that? And that's really where it becomes more problematic. Figuring out what goes into each of these compartments, identifying specific issues and going into the nuances versus like, okay, it's just this one subject and we have to double down on it and triple down on it and quadruple down on it until I get to my perfect point, which is where we run into those issues.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the oversimplification of some of the complex issues. So, for starters, different people are going to have different metabolisms. We know this. There are genetic factors, there are environmental factors, there are hormonal factors. If someone has PCOS or hypothyroidism, yes, it is true that like calories in, calories out still matters. If you have PCOS or hypothyroid or you're in menopause or whatever else, whatever other ailment people say can affect the metabolism, which is true in a sense, But calories in, calories out still reigns supreme. So it's not that if you have PCOS, a deficit doesn't work, or if you have a hormonal imbalance, a deficit doesn't work. A deficit does work. It just becomes harder to achieve that deficit. So eat less, move more. If we say that to someone with hypothyroid or with PCOS who is maybe eating less, but they're still and moving more, but they're still not able to achieve their deficit because there's no actual hard numbers or recommendations about how much should they be eating? How much should they be moving? Does strength training count? Does that cover cardio? Does that only cover NEAT or walking? So I think that's kind of one oversimplification, is it doesn't allow for the complexities of other issues, be it a diagnosis or illness or something else. The other piece of this that I know in my own personal journey really confused me from an eat less, move more standpoint was how adaptive your metabolism actually is. So adaptive thermogenesis, which is essentially the body adapting to how much you are consuming and adjusting accordingly. The body always wants to find homeostasis and protect you. And so if you are consuming less, the body will burn less to help conserve. If you weigh less, the body will use less. If you are, on a hypocaloric diet and you're not eating enough, the body will conserve. And so, this is I'll throw out a practical application example. Probably anyone listening to this that has ever gone on a diet or has been through a dieting phase, you've probably at some point in your life hit what you would call a plateau. And at that point, people are like, what did I do wrong? I thought this diet was working. Now I have to change everything. And chances are you didn't do anything wrong at all. Like a plateau, so to speak, is really just your metabolism adapting. That is adaptive thermogenesis. That's also why we say, kind of little side tangent here, that the goal is always to lose body fat on the highest amount of calories possible, because at some point you're going to have that metabolic adaptation and you will need to drop calories lower to come out of that and to break, so to speak, that adaptation. And so that's why we like to keep calories as high as we can for as long as we can, so that we have wiggle room to decrease calories when needed. But I think this is also where eat less, move more becomes a little bit more complicated, because what about if you take someone who is eating 1,000 calories a day and they're still not seeing the progress you want to see or that they want to see, and they're already doing an hour of cardio a day and they're already eating 1,100 calories a day? And that person is like, I'm so frustrated. I'm not seeing the progress I want to see. And maybe this isn't the main demo, the vast majority of America is not over exercising and under eating. But I know for me, when I was struggling with my eating disorder, everything that I learned about progress at the time was eat less, move more, eat less, move more, eat less, move more. And, for someone with an eating disorder, that was not really helpful advice. I was already doing that and then not necessarily seeing the progress that I wanted to see. So I think it can get problematic for a few different scenarios, but we have to keep in mind that it doesn't account for adaptive thermogenesis. And eventually you will hit a point of no return calorically, where you can't take your calories any lower, either physically or physiologically, because it is detrimental to your health.
And that's when they really have this psychological impact, where it's like, I'm eating 800 calories a day, I'm not losing weight, I'm starving. So then maybe you do cave in, you're like, all right, it's time to bring calories up. Let's say you just have that epiphany moment. So you bring calories up to say 12, 13, 1500 calories, and you start gaining weight. So now they've worked themselves down, they painted themselves into this corner, and because they needed to bump calories up to get to a healthy threshold again, their body responds, first of all, with that instant water weight. You're bringing in more carbs, you're going to be retaining more water. But seeing the scale go up so significantly as calories go to not even a moderate level, but a low end of moderate, and weight start to go back up. And then it starts this vicious cycle and this terrible relationship with food going forward from that point.
Yeah, I think that, again, most people are not going to necessarily struggle with that end of the spectrum, but anyone who is on a dieting phase will struggle with adaptive thermogenesis and knowing that you can't, stay dieting forever. But the psychological impacts, I know, like, certainly I could speak to the disordered eating patterns and the emotional triggers and the food relationship side of things. But like you said, there's this big psychological component. I can't remember if I made this a separate post or if we talked about this here on the podcast, but there's something called cognitive dietary restraint. And it's basically how much you feel like you're on a diet, and how the more you feel that cognitive dietary restraint or CDR, the more unsuccessful you're likely to be in your dieting attempts. But it's not actually about how low your calories physically get, it's about your perception of dieting and like how much you feel like you're on a diet. So I think,
These podcasts have lined up very well recently with our reposting of the
oh, with the
whole
blogs.
blog. That was so that article was 4 days ago,
Okay,
and then
Sarah, yeah,
our
Sarah wrote
last
that one.
episode also had one that Brad had just hit on. So
Yep,
like these for
that
whatever reason,
does
so
keep happening.
these are emails that were about a year old or so that we're
Yeah,
now
probably.
repurposing into onto the new site into the blog section, and for whatever reason, like not even correlating these as we're putting these episodes together, like it's
Yep,
typically one of the more recent ones.
that's
One of these
funny.
main subjects is into.
Yeah, the cognitive dietary restraint, that's a great, someone go, like, if you're listening to this and you want to hear more about that, Sarah wrote a really, really great blog post on that, or email a while ago that is now a blog post. But it's really fascinating stuff because it's all about your perception of how much you feel like you're on a diet. Like if you're going out with friends, you're like, no, 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 I can't have that. I'm on a diet. No, I can't have the dessert. I'm on a diet. And you're like constantly voicing and thinking all the things you can't do because you're, quote, dieting, and how much that can negatively impact your results, your progress, your adherence, your compliance, because you're always, it's like always in your head that like, no, I'm dieting. I can't have that. And of course, that's a big part of why we are like, hey, how about sustainability? How about a sustainable approach to dieting? Because the more we can make it feel like you're not on a diet, the better. And that's something that we hear all the time, I feel like, from clients where they end up being in a dieting phase and they're like, I feel like it should be harder. I'm not really struggling. Like, I feel like all the years of me trying to diet and yo-yo dieting, and like now I'm actually just eating like 18, 19, 2000 calories consistently, and I'm losing weight, and it just feels too easy. And that's where a lot of times clients are like, can you add more cardio in or something? Or like add another day of lifting, because people are so used to struggling and fitness and weight loss feeling absolutely miserable that when you teach people how to do it, like the quote right way, and there's a million ways to do it right, but a sustainable way, they're like, oh, wait, this is actually, I was making it so much more complicated than it needed to be. So, anyway, the psychological aspects of dieting really matter, because if you always feel like it's punishment, or dieting is punishment, or exercise is punishment, and to kind of bring it back to eat less, move more, if you feel like you have to eat less and move more because that's punishment for you saying yes to the ice cream over the weekend, or you know, not working out over the weekend, or whatever it is, you using dieting or movement as punishment is never, ever, ever going to be a reliable or helpful strategy. It might motivate you for a week or two, but then you will be right back where you started. You cannot rely on dieting strategies or exercise being a punishment for your current state.
No, you can't. You can only beat yourself so long and have that be the motivational stick, so to speak.
Yeah.
There's another component too. So eating less, moving more doesn't always necessarily mean you're eating better. And this is a huge piece. Well, not only is a part of like feeling better during your dieting journey, but just your overall health. We're not losing weight just to lose weight. We want to be healthier, we want to be happier, we want to live longer, we want to be able to run around with the kids and do more at work, be more productive, all these great things. So eat less, move more, in essence, could mean breakfast is Lucky Charms. Lunch is, cereal, or I'm sorry, is, Skittles and a cheese stick. And dinner is a big bowl of pasta and a bowl of ice cream after that. Not to say anything of that is wrong in moderation. Just saying, if you're eating those things and simply reducing the portion sizes, you're eating less. Other side, you're moving more along with that, but you're not eating better. So there are so many variables when it comes to nutritional intake, as far as biodiversity of your nutrients, biodiversity of your sounds like I'm saying bio for the right reason. Nutritional diversity, fiber diversity, feeding different things, improving micronutrient deficiencies. So being able to actually give your body the superpower fuel to do its superpower things, feeling better, being stronger, being in a better mood consistently. There are so many pieces to that that aren't just touched on by calories, reducing overall caloric intake. And these are nuances we obviously get into as far as coaching and breaking down personalization and strategies within that are going to fit your lifestyle and your needs and things you actually enjoy. But just on a basic, broad scope level of you doing this on your own, you want to focus on nutrient dense whole food options, especially as you transition away from whatever it was that got you into this place in the first place. If you are in poor health, if you are significantly overweight. So I would even say, like, one of my main components when I start off, or when I was coaching and starting off with a new client, would be, let's not even worry about calories yet. If your intake, if you've been eating poorly for a while, let's literally focus on just making better choices. Let's focus on swapping out the highly processed stuff for a whole food and building meals around those. You're going to feel better within a week. You're not going to crave those other things after the week of being consistent with this. And right off the bat from there, you will start losing weight just because the ultra processed stuff is more calorically dense. It's highly palatable. You're more easily prone to over consuming those things versus a healthy, delicious, whole food oriented meal for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. So starting there, great things are going to happen with aesthetics, with performance, with just watching the scale go down. And then we can focus on eating smaller portion sizes to make that weight loss, that fat loss more efficient from that point. But again, as far as being too broad, too a general scope, eat less, move more, doesn't teach someone who's brand new to this those little intricacies.
Yeah, there's got to be a big focus on nutrient quality and not just calorie reduction. As much as we know that energy balance and fat loss and fat gain is a calorie balance game, the other aspects of nutrient quality, like I know I don't need to sit here and be like, hey, you need protein because protein helps you build muscle. And, there's lots of other things that protein does. But if you're not thinking about what you're having as your protein, your carbs, your protein, carbs, and fats, and then your micronutrient density, like how much fruits and vegetables are you having, how much, we say color count to make it easy for people. But if you're not looking at those things, not only are you potentially having a negative impact on your overall health, but your ability to gain muscle, your ability to recover from those workouts, your hormonal health, your digestive health. There's a lot of other pieces to that, as well as hunger and satiety. So I think that's another big missed component of nutrient quality or nutrient density when dieting. Is a lot of people will be quick to nail down the caloric reduction part, but then what they are choosing, they're not necessarily choosing the thing that's going to keep them full, keep them fueled. So that's another kind of consideration there. Another interesting thing about the eat less, move more statement is that I think it like oversimplifies it a little bit to the point of almost making weight purely about a willpower issue, because that's typically when I see this statement get used. It's not like, I think, again, people use it to kind of simplify, but I feel like a lot of the instances in where I hear a coach or a trainer use this statement is to oversimplify it as like, it's easy. You just have to do this. Like, if you just eat less and move more, like, you'll lose the weight. Obviously, you don't want it bad enough if you can't just like eat a little less and move a little more. And so I think a lot of times it gets, I don't know if you've noticed that too, Josh, but I feel like it gets almost kind of like lumped in with this like willpower piece of weight loss, of like, it just feels paired with like, oh, you must not want it bad enough for me.
You're
That's
just
how
too
I
lazy
see
to
it.
lose weight. You're just too
Right.
lazy to lose weight because you can't eat less and you can't move your body.
Right. So I think there's like a weird like frame around it being a willpower thing.
Which becomes more off-putting to a lot of those people. And we just did a
Yes.
full deep dive that we won't do again on this episode. But in regards to those socioeconomic and environmental factors, there are things that come into play. So if you guys missed that one, definitely go back, give that a listen. We kind of
Yeah, the
address
social
those different factors.
determinants.
Exactly. We hit those and just kind of give you guys some things to think about and kind of change your approach in certain areas. So if you are in a deficit, so to speak, as in regards to, climbing this uphill battle, there are little things we can pay attention to, little things we can take control of to make our health, one step further, and then just keep building on those little things. But that is something that those people would hear and be like, okay, well, that's bullshit. I've got X, Y, and Z. I can't. You can do this. I can't do that. Fair, and that's why the
Right.
oversimplification isn't fair. But there are different things we can do. So if you guys missed it, make sure you check that one out.
Yeah, that was a really great episode to kind of dive into the nuances of like, okay, it's not just about calories because there are other things to consider. Can you do you have access to healthy food? Do you have access to like a safe exercise environment? Can you walk in your neighborhood safely? Time, resources, childcare, like these are all potential barriers or at least obstacles that you may need to work through as you approach weight loss potentially. So let's talk about a better approach
Better
because
way.
we never love to present a problem and then just be like, yeah, this is a
Good luck.
problem, it sucks, good luck. We usually try to leave you with some sort of helpful insight or actionable steps. So I think you guys are going to be really surprised to hear this one. But we're a big fan of sustainable habits. Ding, ding, ding. I'm sure the
Shocker.
bells are going off. You are absolutely mind blown by that. But you know, it's funny. We never want our episodes to feel super repetitive, but you're probably noticing if you've listened to like a handful of episodes at this point that there are some common themes that tend to come up quite a few times the more you continue to listen. But when it comes to weight loss, kind of bringing it back to the cognitive dietary restraint piece, the more we feel like we're on a diet, the more we are likely going to be unsuccessful. So, what sorts of practices or habits can we put in place slowly, one at a time, baby step style, that would encourage the idea that it's something you'll be able to sustain, whether that is mindful eating, because maybe macro tracking is not your thing, whether it is I'm going to focus on having a color with every meal, I'm going to focus on having a protein with every meal, or I know that a lot of the times I don't start my day with protein and then I fall behind in protein later in the day and I end up snacking for lunch and then I pretty much only really have dinner and it's the only time I'm eating like a regular normal meal. Great. Can we say, hey, this one new habit that I'm going to do that I think I can do sustainably and I'm capable of doing, I'm going to make sure I have a high protein breakfast. Great. I'm not even saying protein in every meal. I'm saying shoot for a high protein breakfast. So our goal always is to encourage sustainable habits. So that could be mindful eating. If macro tracking feels like a sustainable route for you, that could be a really great route. It also doesn't need to be, I always like to mention this, it also doesn't need to be that you're tracking protein, carbs, fat, fiber, calories, everything down to the last calorie, down to the last gram. What if it's just, I'm looking at calories and protein and letting the carbs and fats fall where they may? Or I'm looking at protein and fiber and trying to stay within a caloric range, or I'm shooting for macro ranges or calorie ranges instead of everything down to the last gram. I think for a lot of people, macro tracking can feel really all or nothing, and there is some nuance there and a way to compromise. The other thing that we want to keep in mind is balanced nutrition, like the role of including foods in your diet that make you feel good, not just on the inside, but also like bring you joy in some sense. And same thing goes for exercise. So movement that makes you feel good, movement that you can recover from. If you can't recover from it, it's not sustainable. So joyful food and movement, consistent food and movement. Those are going to be two huge parts of actually building sustainable habits.
I want to come back to habits as you leave off on that. What you were kind of touching on before, I've talked about for a long time. The most dramatic changes come from these tiny daily habits done
Mm-hmm.
consistently, done daily. People don't realize that. They go for the big sexy thing. I'm going to
Yep.
change. I'm going to do this overhaul, and it's going to make my life so much better. That might last a month if you're lucky. The real things that last for life are those tiny decisions getting improved on a daily basis. So I've kind of morphed that into this idea of the power of two. And the idea is we want to create this unbreakable chain. So the power of two, reading 2 pages per night before bed, going for literally a 2 minute walk. The idea is that it's so simple, like it's ridiculous to not just do it, to do that tiny little thing. And once you start it, more often than not, you're going to go above and beyond that. You're going to go beyond those 2 pages. You're going to walk more than 2 minutes. Like the hardest part was starting. And typically those who don't start are overwhelmed by the idea of, I don't want to go walk for half an hour, for an hour. I don't want to go read a chapter. Like, I'm so tired. I don't have the time. It's been such a long day. I'll pick it up tomorrow. You don't say that when it's such a
Two
ridiculously
minutes.
small feat and you
Right.
get to check that box. Like that little dopamine hit you get from like, okay, I did it.
I
I was
did it.
perfect on my habits today, 3 days in a row for this week. Perfect set of habits because it was so small. And sometimes you might be about to pass out and you get to that second page, you close the book and you close your eyes. That's it. But you still accomplished it. You didn't break the chain. You did not morph your habitual routine. You kept this positive behavior change and you continue to reinforce it. So the power of two, you can apply it to anything. It's not just like actual specific habits. It could be nutrition, focusing on having 2 plants with a meal. And when I say that, I mean like berries and a couple nuts. There's your 2 plants, something like that. Break it down to these micro tasks that are just ridiculous. Like you would have to laugh at yourself. Like, did I really not do that? Like that is so simple. Like why did I
Yeah.
not do that? That's the
People will
barrier.
laugh hearing it. They'll laugh hearing it, like a 2 minute walk, 2 pages in a book. What's that going to do? But people really, really, really underestimate how much they build confidence and self esteem and competence when they actually just follow through with something. But follow through can be really hard if your task is too big and too daunting and overwhelming because you're not going to follow through, not for more than a day or two or a week or two. So, making the task or the habit unfailable is the goal.
Yep. If you do something once in a while, you see results once in a while. So the objective, the concept is that the results you want come from the routine you master. You have to become a master of routine.
Yeah. I'm also going to plug Levolution here because as we talk about encouraging sustainable habits and taking a better approach to health and wellness, there are still going to be people that are like, I hear what you're saying. I love what you're saying. I love what you're about. I still don't feel like I know where to start. Like, what are those habits that I should be doing? How do I know if it's too big or too small? How do I know if this is a habit that I focus on now or like if this is a habit that I should be focused on 20 pounds from now? So, with that, hi, Levolution is our coaching company. We're an evidence based health and fitness coaching company. And our staff is extremely qualified, extremely educated. And to be frank, we're the best in the industry. So we are a team of exercise physiologists, registered dietitians, pre and postnatal coaches, kinesiologists, sports nutritionists, pretty much everyone for everything. And essentially, when you apply to work with someone from our team, or you apply and you're like, hey, I really just want more information about your coaching, that's all an application does. So I wanted to just put that out there as well, because an application, like applying to work with Levolution, it does not commit you. Even getting on a free consult call does not commit you. And we offer a free consult call to every single person that applies to work with us. You don't need to choose your coach. You certainly could come in with a coach preference, but we have an enrollment specialist who does a fantastic job of pairing coaches and clients to make sure that they are the absolute best fit for one another based on your goals, your experience, your history, what you're looking for. If you want to track macros, if you don't want to track macros, if you want to do nutrition only versus training and nutrition. All of that said, the individualized coaching approach allows us to really address every single person's unique circumstances, lifestyle, preferences, limitations, obstacles, budget, whatever it is. We are going to teach you how to do it with whatever your situation is, with whatever cards you've been dealt. So,
And I'm going to blow your minds right now because I know a lot of you are going to be intrigued by that. You're going to go to the page, you're going to see the apply now and start filling out your info, and you're going to freeze. It feels like a big to do. It feels like a task, like a commitment. Even though it's a no obligation sales or not sales call, discovery call, we're learning about you. We're going to make sure we're the best fit. If we are the best fit, we'll outline some options for you as far as what makes the most sense with your current goals and where you are right now. That being said, if you are one of those who looks at that and you freeze, you can text us at
Mhm.
860-980-4607. I feel like an infomercial. Once again, that's 860-980-4607. Just shoot us over a question, what it is about coaching that you're curious about, and we will text you back. That is our business line that does allow for texting. That is something that we've kind of identified over the years. Our coaches have kind of brought up as a bit of a pain point. People just, it's just this, again, talk about psychological. When you go to fill out an application, there's something to it. So we said, how can we be better? How can we help more people? How can we start the conversation? Again, there's no obligation when you jump on with us. We just want to make sure we're the best fit. We want to make sure we can help you. And if you're not ready to hop on an actual call, you don't want to send in the application just yet, text us. We'll jump on. If there's a coach, we're like, you know what, this coach should really kill this question. They'd be great. Start that conversation with them. If it's a good conversation, you want to jump on a call, we'll get that scheduled. But that is now available. That is not something we've always offered. We have listened,
That's new.
and it's out. It's live.
Yeah, the last thing that I'll mention, because I think for some people, like you said, Josh, the call can feel like a barrier, like it feels like a really big step. And I always like to say when I talk about our application or like our process, our onboarding process at all on Instagram, I always like to mention that we don't take any credit cards over the phone. Like we don't sign people up on the phone. I think a lot of people get nervous to take that consult call because they're afraid they're going to be like pressure sailed into signing up and like making a decision that they're uncomfortable with. We so don't approach sales that way. We're like, hey, let's get you on the phone. Let's talk to you. Let's give you all the coaching information. Let's answer any questions you have. And like, if you decide to move forward, let us know. We'll give you a link and you can move forward on at your own pace. Go talk to your spouse, go talk to whoever you need to talk to. Go look at your budget. We are not out here trying to pressure you into coaching. We firmly stand by our coaching and we know that we're the best in the game. And if you're going to hire anyone, it should be us. But we're not going to say to you on a call, like, it's now or never, you have until the end of the day to make your decision. Like that's just not who we are. We want this to be a decision that you feel good about physically, emotionally, financially, all of the above. So anytime you apply and get on a consult call, the ball is in your court after that. We do not take signups over the phone. So
And
just
just
wanted to
to
put that
really
out
drive
there.
that home, we have actually turned away applicants on the call. Like this isn't the best fit at this time. So we're going to be honest with you. It's like it's not a harsh thing like no, you can't work with us.
Mhm.
It's like, you know what, there are a couple things that, would make more sense to wait on. So let's
Yep.
let's address these first. If it's something where we have a recommendation like this person would be perfect for you in this regard, like we'll refer you out. But just to drive home, like it's not close the sale. It's not an instruction our staff has ever, given. It's make sure that we are the best fit for this person, make sure we can provide everything they're looking for, make sure we can deliver the results that they're looking for. And that's why we go through this process. We have this nice conversation, and then we offer a 30-day money back guarantee, which you can't do unless you're nailing it on the coaching side. And we have full confidence in our ability to do that because we have a team of rock stars. So that's the
Yeah.
end of my pitch. Just wanted to give you guys all the deets.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, we stand by everything that we do and everything that we create for you guys. And we love you. And we obviously want to create as many free resources as humanly possible and make health and fitness information as accessible as possible. And there will be more to come on that in another few months,
Well,
hopefully
I can drop one right now, though. I
another
can
few
drop one right now.
weeks. Oh, what are
Last
you dropping?
different pitch. It's
Okay.
what we just launched with the Roadblocks quiz. So we,
Oh, yeah.
for those of you who are unaware, we run ads literally to give you guys free stuff. Like it's freebies. Hey, if you struggle with this, here's a freebie. If you struggle with this, here's a freebie. So the one we just put out is a Roadblocks quiz. Basically, 5 main things that most people are struggling with as they're getting started, and or why they haven't seen progress. I'm doing all the things it feels like, but I'm not seeing progress. Take that quiz. It's going to take you less than a minute. I think I did it when I was testing it out in about 30 seconds. It'll tell you what your main roadblocks are, and then it will direct you or will send you over a video, audio version, PDF guide to kind of follow along with, hey, here are your quick actionable steps. You can do this today. Here's a more of an action plan to overcome this. And that's it. From that point, if you want to stay in the emails, like we're going to just straight up value. Like here's the tip of the day. Here's some actionable advice. We will not spam you with a bunch of marketing stuff. So that'll
On
be in the
that note,
description. Long story short, that'll be in the description.
On that note, we want to give you as much free stuff as we possibly can. But we also want to be in your heads so that if and when there ever comes a time where you're like, I could use some extra accountability or some extra guidance, that we are the people that you think of. That's our
We got you.
strategy.
We
We're not
got
going to
you.
pressure you into coaching. We're just going to give you as much information as possible to just make us irresistible when you do need a coach.
Our growth strategy is to get you to sprint to us with open arms when you decide you're ready. That's it.
Yeah.
Doing it the
Yeah.
right way.
That's it. All right. So key takeaways here. Eat less, move more. A simplification that could be potentially helpful for some people, but if it is an oversimplification to the point that it just paralyzes you because you don't know what to do with eat how much less, eat what, move how much, then it's not actually a helpful statement for you. The goal is to focus on nutrition quality, not just sheer caloric restriction. Find movement that you genuinely enjoy, because what you enjoy is what you can stick to. And we want to make sure that we're addressing any emotional or psychological factors that are presenting themselves in your personal health and fitness journey, being able to present those with compassion and strategy, whether that is with or without a coach. So that's our spiel, guys.
If you guys want to put this into buckets, like we have the L5 method. So the concept is our 5 pillars of health: our training, nutrition, mindset, movement, and habits. And you want a protocol for each of those. Doesn't have to be a huge protocol. Just what's the thing you're focusing on for training? What are you doing? Is it 2 days a week, total body, 15, 20 minutes? That's all you can get in. So training, nutrition, am I focusing on building out my meals around a healthy protein, healthy carb, healthy fat, whatever that looks like for you, plant points, however you want to do it, the color system, mindset, movement, habits. Again, pick one simple thing that you can take into a daily action and you will not break that step. So use the power of 2. Think about those 5 pillars as your framework, as your blueprint. That also happens to be a freebie on our website, is the fitness blueprint for busy humans. That kind of encapsulates all of these things. So we will make sure you guys have easy access to these resources. Again, we just want you to be able to simplify the oversimplification. Yes, this may work to a degree. Here are the different variables to be thinking of and keeping tabs on all of those.
That's it.
That's all we got. All right,
That's all we got.
Where can they find you?
At Joelle Samantha.
I'm at Josh Scott. Everything else is linked in the show notes.